Okay, I'll be I'll be brief because I hope that folks on this call have been interested enough to read through the article, and I don't want to belabor the points made in there on the context of a humanitarian response in Gaza. I am acting as the head of policy and advocacy at CARE Canada. And we have been in a position, well, for the last 40 years of actively engaging within that territory and supporting Palestinians and Israelis as well through our humanitarian response and our development programming. That being said, we are very much aware in terms of an update, even from when we wrote that article, that although a ceasefire is nominally in place, we do have to be clear that our teams are still encountering bombs continuing to fall. And the humanitarian conditions in Gaza remain extremely precarious. We have severe access restrictions, movement obstacles, explosive ordnance contamination, and profound shortages of supplies that limit our ability, even though we are on the ground and active, to meet the needs of Gazans at this moment. Within the article, we spoke a lot about the impact on women and girls. So we know that between October 2023 and July 2025, women and girls made up nearly two-thirds of all Palestinians killed. After the ceasefire at that moment collapsed in March 2025, we knew that 1.1 million people were forced to flee their homes, and that number has only grown. We're seeing some return, but without the infrastructure to support their lives or livelihood. So they're losing not just shelter, but their family networks. We can also talk about hunger. At this moment, or at least when we wrote the article, we were using data that showed that 557,000 women in Gaza were facing severe food insecurity. We know that there have been declarations of famine. And anybody who's worked in crisis settings knows that women are often the ones who skip meals so their children can eat. They carry this physical burden, but also the mental weight of holding a hungry family together. We can also talk about gender-based violence, what overcrowded shelters, a lack of privacy, the total breakdown of protection systems means. It creates this perfect condition for violence, exploitation, abuse. All of this brings us to the Women, Peace, and Security agenda. This framework isn't just policy language, it's a practical guide on how we can protect women, include them, and ultimately build peace. We focus on four key pillars. We talk about participation, meaning women are at the table when decisions are made. Protection, keeping women and girls safe from violence. Prevention, addressing the root causes of conflict and inequality. And relief and recovery. So, how do we make sure humanitarian aid actually meets women's needs on the ground? And this couldn't be more relevant in Gaza at this moment. Humanitarian organizations, as I mentioned, including CARE, have been working for decades in Gaza, not just for the last 2 years. Before the recent blockade of aid, we supported more than 930,000 people with food, clean water, shelter, medical care, protection services. And even now, local organizations remain the backbone. We talk about this a lot in various contexts around kind of this increasing push for militarization of aid delivery or kind of the pushes to government or only UN mechanisms. There's a role for civil society that has never been more needed. We do see 83% of organizations right now, civil society organizations, local organizations, are still operating, which is extraordinary given the circumstances. They have almost no resources, many of them. To truly support women and girls, we need to direct more funding to women-led organizations, design programs that specifically respond to women's health, safety, and economic needs. We also need to ensure that women are part of every decision, from aid distribution to peace building. And Canada has a role to play here. We do, as a nation, have a long history of speaking up for human rights and humanitarian principles. And during this crisis, our government has made strong statements, but statements alone don't change conditions on the ground. In some cases, they can even give cover to further violations if not matched with action. We are working alongside several of our sector partners every day to meet with the government and encourage them to use every diplomatic tool available. We had a meeting this morning with Secretary of State Sarai, and we gave him the tools needed to push for an immediate and lasting ceasefire, which is not what we see right now, but also to hold all parties accountable under international law. We have to push for full and unrestricted entry of humanitarian aid, and we must take a hard look at our own policies, which includes closing arms trade loopholes and halting all direct and indirect arms transfers. I'm going to end this by saying what we all know. I hope we all know. The situation in Gaza is devastating, especially for women and girls. But I do think that the Women, Peace, and Security agenda can give us a path forward. It can center dignity, safety, and agency. And it gives us the tools needed and the messaging needed to support women-led organizations, design truly gender-responsive humanitarian programs, and ensure that women are a part of shaping the peace in a really sustainable way. I'll stop there.